The idiot main character Noor really started his grand adventure by unclogging drains. Forget swords, magic, or destiny, this man's first battle was against sewer water, the MC out here being the chosen plumber, truly inspirational. Then comes Mrs. Stella, showering him with thanks like he just saved the kingdom when all he did was make her drains stop smelling. He takes the compliment way too seriously and rides off like he just completed a legendary quest. The scene changes to a mine where many workers carry big sacks, but the airhead Noor carries the biggest pile with a smile on his face. He dives right back into work as he unloads the sacks off his work. In the evening, his employer thanks him for his hard work once again. He smiles but notices something in the distance. A girl cries out for help and Noor doesn't waste any time and rushes to the source of the sound like a mindless simp. The voice takes him to a cave where a girl is tied with some magic rope. A vicious beast stands tall as many knights surround the beast. The beast glows red. He is quick to notice how the beast is actually a huge cow. In the Kingdom of Clays about 15 years ago, on a farm, a young Noor makes a fire inside his little house. He works hard to grind some herbs while his sick mother stitches something in bed. He brings her the medicine, which she gladly accepts and thanks him for his work. Noor gets up to feed the sheep and head back to work. His mother tries warning him, but he already known the rules. He informs his mother that he will bring back food for her, but his mother watches him with a serious expression, worried for her young son. Suddenly, she starts coughing and he quickly rushes to her side. He jumps up to get some water for her, but his mother stops him. His mother grabs his face and starts wiping the soot from his face like she isn't on her deathbed. She apologizes that she couldn't give him much, but he deserves to choose how he wants to live his life. At night, the lonely loser stirs the pot filled with soup while his mother lies in bed. He brings the soup for his mother, but she doesn't move. He drops the soup and rushes to her side, but it is too late. In the morning, Noor places flowers next to two graves with a dejected look on his face. He tries his best not to cry as he looks up at the sky. Later, he buries himself in work and does all sorts of jobs, all while living alone. At night, he reaches for a book but falls on his butt. He opens his book and another flashback begins. He asks his father about stories and his father tells him about adventurers. Adventurers are people who unite to eliminate threats, study magic, and save people from all sorts of menaces. Noor listens to the story with stars in his eyes as he asks his father for more stories. The flashback ends as he thinks of his mother's words. The next day, he informs his parents that he is going to the city to become an adventurer. In the city, he notices how busy the city is. Randomly, he notices a man with a sword and starts following him. Soon, he finds himself in front of the Adventurers Guild. The man at the desk tells him to go home, but Noor stands like a stubborn little brat. The man tells him to think of his parents. Newsflash, they're both 6 feet under. The man gives in and instructs him to go to the training schools even though he will be the youngest member. The man explains that every adventurer needs to go to training school and pick some skills to train. Later, Noor ends up at the school, ready to become like the hero in stories who take down dragons. Soon, he ends up in class training like all the other wannabe heroes. One by one, the students start getting their powers and Noor dives back into training. He spends months training and nothing happens. Not a single spark, not even a beginner's move. He's basically the world's most dedicated failure, grinding every day and still staying at level 0. It's like the universe looked at him and said, "Nah, you're good where you are." When his teacher finally tells him to quit, Noor treats it like a side quest and runs off to another school. Same result. Over and over, he becomes the guy every institution regrets enrolling. He tries hunters, thieves, magicians, clerics, but all of them bear him no fruit at all. At this point, he isn't training anymore. He's auditioning for the role of the most useless character alive. He's a professional L collector. The only skill he's ever unlocked is wasting everyone's time. He walked back to the guild where the man is shocked to find that none of the schools work for him. Dejected, he walks out of the city because everyone told him the same thing. You don't have what it takes to be an adventurer. Back at his home, he greets his parents and promises to work harder than anyone else since he is such a talentless prick. He makes a new training ground for himself. If he keeps practicing every skill, he will become a new man. 1 year later, he learns to parry 10 swords at the same time. This is a big step for him. 3 years later, he is able to parry 100 swords, but he hasn't gained any skills either. Noor gets frustrated with how much he must work, but he doesn't back down or give up. 10 years later, he has successfully trained for 14 years without missing a single day. He can now parry 1,000 swords, but still he has no skills. Once again, he packs his stuff and ends up in front of the guild. The woman at the desk looks through his skills and asks if all this is correct. She recommends that he should study at some training school, but he has already been through all that. The guild master tells him not to trouble the lady, but then he recognizes Noor. They catch up and he tells him all about his training. Master tells him that he needs to have at least one skill to become an E-rank adventurer, but he doesn't have even that. Noor thinks about giving up, but Master gives him hope. There is one more rank below E. With some conditions, he can join the guild as an F-rank adventurer. With this, he will only be able to take odd jobs in the city. He agrees to take the job and soon he gets his license. He uses all his basic skills and works around the city. At night, He looks at his license, happy to finally become an adventurer. Back in the present, he stands in the cave, staring at the cow beast who swings his axe at the captain. One by one, the beast takes down all the knights till only the girl and Noor are left. He throws a rock at the beast who comes rushing at him. Noor uses his special skill, parry, and throws the cow in the wall. He keeps parrying its attacks, trying his best to protect the girl. The beast rushes at the girl, but Noor deflects his axe like a brave hero. Noor's sword shatters, but he stands strong, ready to protect the girl. Using the leftover sword, he parries the attack. The force hits the beast and the beast falls. Any longer and he would have become cow food. The girl thanks him for his help, but he couldn't help anyone else. Noor walks away dejected without answering the girl's questions. He shakes in fear at his near-death experience, all thanks to an overgrown cow. Linneberg examines the scene where her knights have all fallen. Ines comes rushing to see if Linneberg is wounded. Ines apologies, but Linneberg is quick to excuse her. Darkin informs Linneberg that Rain wants to hear about the events inside the cave. Rain is deep in thought about the monster from the cave. It appeared from no place but the abyss, which means that this was a failed attempt at eliminating Lin. A catalyst ring was found on one of the bodies, which was later examined by Oaken. Darkin places the ring on the table, which is a rare mana stone. The ring most likely came from the magic empire of Doritas, who have been annoying the Clays for some time now. The Doritas Empire wants the Clays to wage war, just so they can land their hands on the Dungeon of the Lost. Rain wonders about Noor and his extraordinary abilities, but he just vanished. How your crush ghosts you after your failed Riz attempts. At the guild, the idiot gets questioned by the master because of the beast in the dungeon. He apologizes for his late appearance because some suspicious people were following him all night. The master is glad that Noor isn't hurt. Even some A-ranked adventurer like him couldn't stand a chance against the beast. He is glad he only fought a cow, totally oblivious that the cow was the beast. The master tells Noor about some mystery man who defeated the beast in one blow. He wonders how amazing the man must be. The master asks about Noor's job plans, but the clown is Delulu that he belongs to the guild. Out of nowhere, a hooded figure stands behind him, glad to have finally found him. Lin explains how she found Noor, who is fascinated by her use of magic. Everyone in the guild recognizes Lin, so she asks him to meet her outside. The master asks Noor what trouble he stirred up, while Lin explains how she will prevent someone from eavesdropping on their conversation. The master tells him not to mess up this opportunity, and Noor follows her. On the way out, some soldiers talk about the mystery man, but they don't notice Noor or Lin, all thanks to Lin's magic. At a good spot, Lin thanks him for his help. He is a brave hero who saved everyone in the kingdom. Noor brushes off the praise at the humble man he is, but Lin insists. She wants to repay him for his help, but he doesn't accept anything. She insists, but he doesn't want anything. Lin crying over his refusal makes it look like she's the only person on Earth who actually cares about this man's non-existent standards. She's ready to camp on the ground until he agrees, which honestly is the most dramatic reaction to someone turning down a thank you gift. The moment even hits the idiot Noor with a flashback, because of course it does. He remembers himself refusing to leave the academy until the teacher let him attend. The parallel isn't noble, it's pathetic. He isn't noble for giving in, he's just realizing he's as stubborn as his own failure streak. When Lin drags him to replace with her techniques, Noor's jaw drops at the sight of the mansion. She's loaded, he's broke, and suddenly he's wondering if she's a noble. Noor, the drain-cleaning, sack-carrying simp, standing inside a palace. This is less of a meet the king and more of a charity program. Lin asks Ines where her father is, but he is busy with Rain at the moment. Ines questions Noor and leads the way. He thinks that Ines must be Lin's maid, but her outfit is very odd. On their way, Gilbert stops them all and questions Noor, but Ines tells him to back off. Gilbert understands who he is, but he doesn't look like the mystery man at all. Ines invites Gilbert to join the trio to see Lin's father. Rain and Lord Clays discuss the situation about the Doritas Empire. In a previous meeting, the Doritas people asked for Clay's military, but Lord Clays was quick to deny. Lin walks inside the room as the servants bow to her father. Rain questions Lin's cloak, but she just wanted to find her savior. Lin introduces Noor to her father, who stands up to greet him. The idiot apologizes because he doesn't know any noble etiquette. Like, hold on bro, let me just. Lord Clays laughs and shakes Noor's hand. Noor decides that this is enough, now he can go home and have a hot relaxing bath, but Clays asks him to decide his reward. Noor declines everything and anything Clays has to offer. Lord Clays offers his own sword to him. Noor accepts the sword, but it is heavier than what he expects. He asks if the sword is important, otherwise he won't accept it. Clays denies and Noor finally accepts the reward. Bro has now unlocked the guts build. Noor tries out the sword. It is heavy, but he will manage. Clays laughs because Noor can wield the sword with just one hand. He has another offer. Clays asks him to train Lin, but Noor doesn't care unless Lin wants to train herself. He finally gets to leave the mansion. He inspects the sword and realizes that it is the same size as Mrs. Stella's drains. He will be able to clean her drains much efficiently now. Ines stops Noor and talks to him in private. She apologizes for the Clay's behavior, but it is her duty to look after the Clay's house, which includes entertaining guests as well. She introduces herself as the vice captain of the Warrior Corps. Ines thanks him for his help and says that she is now indebted to Noor for saving Lynn. He thinks that all of this is too much for him. Ines reminds Noor of his lack of manners in front of the Clays. Next time, she will personally make him suffer if he forgets his place. After learning his name, Ines leaves. Noor turns and is almost blinded by Gilbert, who asks for his time. He wants to see what he is made of, and all Noor can think of is how badly he wants to go home. Noor follows Gilbert to the training grounds for a sparring match. He panics because he hasn't trained against anyone since his academy days. Gilbert lets Noor choose a weapon, but he feels happy to learn a thing or two from a pro fighter. The men face each other in the middle of the room. People whisper about how Noor must want to see heavens, which is why he has challenged Gilbert. Gilbert attacks first, but he just dodges. Every attack Gilbert throws at him, Noor just dodges. Both men analyze each other, and Noor notices that Gilbert is slow. Gilbert thinks that maybe the power difference between the two is so much that Noor is holding back. Noor asks for a timeout and asks Gilbert to not hold back against him. They head back into the fight, and he still dodges his attacks like you dodge your mom's flying slipper. Noor asks Gilbert once again to go faster, even though Gilbert just gave his best attack. Inside, Noor thinks that maybe all this training worked out. He might have a chance to win this fight even though his best strategy is dodge. Gilbert uses his secret technique and smiles, thinking that he has finally struck him. The smoke clears, and Noor is not in the line of attack. Rather, he stands a few feet away perfectly fine. He forfeits and he is finally allowed to go home. At the training room, all the men talk about Noor and how he successfully dodges Gilbert's special attack. Gilbert sulks on the ground like he stole his honor and his girl all in a day's fight. He wonders if he is really a true genius. Since he picked up the spear, he never lost a single battle. The chief of the village asked if he had fun, but Gilbert was truly bored. He has been going around the world looking for strong opponents, but he had no luck. The old man suggests Gilbert to join the capital once again. At the capital, Gilbert only focused on fighting beasts, since no man stood a single chance in front of him. Everything was boring and everyone was weak. His master confronted him, and all that Gilbert had to say was that he is bored and his title means nothing. His master suggests him to try out Ines, who is a different kind of strong. Gilbert wishes he was more like his master. The master explains that he trains men because a single strong man cannot win a war, and one day someone might surpass him. Back in the present, Gilbert thinks about Noor once again because he couldn't figure out what type of a person Noor is. Noor was a simple-minded person who talked to the king with confidence, but Gilbert couldn't detect anything from him. But still, why could Gilbert not land even a single hit on him? No human could survive his drag rave, but Noor did it. After Noor left, Gilbert noticed the cracks in the floor. Finally, Gilbert realizes that he will be able to have some fun too. As Noor walks back home, he realizes how Gilbert humbled him with his final attack. He had to use everything he had just to dodge the attack, otherwise he would have become a simple stain on the training room walls. Maybe this was Gilbert's way of reminding him of his place. Noor decides that he needs to train harder because Gilbert just reminded him how weak he truly is. The next day, Noor uses his shiny new weapon to clean out the drains. He is amazed at how good the new weapon cleans the drains, and the sword doesn't even chip when he uses it roughly. Later, Noor sulks that the mine job has been taken down. Soon he will run out of tasks to do in the city, and he will become a useless good-for-nothing again. He looks at his sword and realizes what a good ore it can become. It can also be used in a bakery or to grill food. He needs some way to start a fire too. His current flame is too tiny to do anything. Lynn sneaks up behind Noor and greets him. Lynn tells her that she is here for a request. She wants to become his apprentice who will do his daily tasks in exchange for his knowledge and wisdom. Noor declines without even a single thought. Lynn wonders if it is her who is the problem, but Noor tells her that there is nothing he can teach her. She offers a huge sum of money for his expertise, but Noor declines. Lynn tries bargaining, but Noor has no need of her. Lynn demonstrates her powers to Noor, hoping that she will change his mind somehow. Noor looks at her in shock while she still shows her skills off to him, but Noor doesn't budge. When Noor shows his skills in return, the comparison is brutal. She's basically auditioning for greatness while he's stuck role-playing as the world's most advanced janitor. Noor didn't decline her because he is humble, he declined her because he has nothing to give. He's the human embodiment of an empty toolbox. Lynn walked back to her mansion as she thinks of Noor, the talentless boy, whose tales the masters at the academy told to everyone. It sounded like a fairy tale that there was someone this talentless, but the story is real. Noor was the boy who gained no skills, even though he went to all the academies. She remembers what her magic master Oaken told her while demonstrating his own tiny flame. With enough training, someone can make the tiny flame grow just a bit bigger, but no one has the time to waste on such things. Bro is just free ran in another universe, training useless skills for his own self. Lin tries to use her own tiny flame, but even though she trained very hard, it could never grow bigger. The reason why Nor's skills shocked her is because his tiny flame was much larger than Oaken's. Lin sulks that she showed all her high-class skills to him that any ordinary person could learn. Nor accomplished so many great things, but he never showed off to anyone that he was able to do all this. He is a very strong person in both body and mind. Lin and her brother will one day rule the kingdom. The stronger sibling will take the throne, which is why she went after Nor so he could teach her his ways. Lin locks in. She knows what she needs to do now. As Nor leaves the guild, he bumps into Lin once again, who apologizes for her immature actions. She has made her mind up already. She will follow Nor till he gives up and accepts her as his apprentice. The secret that the House of Clays has been searching for generations is hidden with Nor. Nor just looks at Lin and wonders what he did to deserve this. All he wanted was to go home and rest. Rain still thinks about his father's prize to Nor. How could he give his most prized weapon, the black sword, to a commoner like Nor? Back when Clays was still an adventurer, he went deep inside the Dungeon of the Lost. After years and years of hard work, he returned with the black sword, the kingdom's most prized relic. The sword was made of a mysterious material that no matter what happened, couldn't be scratched. The other mystery was that how could such an unbreakable blade be in such a bad condition? The value of the weapon goes beyond just its unbreakable power. There has to be more to this exchange. Lord Clays has also noticed the ominous power surrounding the nation, so he must have bet on Nor to take care of the threat. Nor might be the only person capable enough to take care of the looming threat in the Clays kingdom. Lin and Nor stand in front of a stall. Nor asks if it is okay for someone like her to be standing in this place. Lin herself is an adventurer, so this is no big deal for her. In his head, Nor knows that he isn't worth calling a teacher. The more he tries to get rid of Lin, the clingier she becomes, like an annoying ex who wouldn't leave you alone. At the guild master asks why Nor is being buddies with someone of noble status. Nor explains that this matter is more complicated than it looks. Master decides to not question more, but Nor wants him to ask for details. Nor asks for tasks for 2 people, and since Lin is a B-rank adventurer, both of them can go goblin hunting outside the city. Nor is shocked that this sort of a task is even being given to him. Last time he checked, he was the talentless fool who cleaned drains for a living, but thanks to Lin, he could join silver-ranked tasks with her. Nor wonders if he is taking advantage of her like a shameless man. Not a moment ago, he was ready to ditch her any second. Nor asks if she is really okay with him relying on her like this. But thanks to her, Nor can live his dreams of fighting big monsters. Master warns Nor to be careful and shows him the location of the goblins. He needs to bring back the goblins' ears as proof, otherwise they won't get paid. The guards at the gate let Nor and Lin leave after looking at their guild pass. Lin feels happy all because Nor is letting her stick by her side. Once they are inside the forest, Nor asks what sort of a monster a goblin is. Lin explains that goblins usually eat fruits but also prey on humans. Once their numbers grow, they attack human settlements for food, which is why adventurers are sent to reduce the goblins. A complete wipeout is not possible because goblins also contribute to the ecosystem of the forest. Lin uses her powers to track the goblins, but she has no luck whatsoever. Suddenly, she detects something a bit far away. Maybe it is the goblins they are looking for. Once they are deeper in the forest, it becomes dark, but goblins love this environment. Lin notices that the area she was previously detecting the monster from completely disappeared. Maybe the goblin was old and living its last breaths. The place where the goblin was is completely empty, but Nor notices something. A half-eaten goblin falls on the ground from the sky. Lin uses her abilities to reveal a huge goblin with abs and all, munching on the smaller goblin. Nor looks at the goblin in shock. It was meant to be a small, weak monster, but this goblin has a body that could rival Goku himself. The goblin grabs 2 trees to use as weapons, and Nor is shocked to see this huge beast that the adventurers call a small fry. Lin herself stares at the goblin in shock, but Nor doesn't blame her. She is inexperienced in these matters even if she is talented. Nor comforts her and tells her that this is just a goblin. Nor grabs his trusty weapon and prepares for battle with Lin. Lin knows that this isn't any ordinary goblin, this is a goblin emperor. Goblin emperors are created through forbidden knowledge and research. She wonders if Nor already knew about this threat and he is it behind his excitement. Little does she know, this is the first time Nor is even looking at a goblin. The goblin emperor rushes at Nor with his tree weapon swinging. Nor parries the goblin away again and again. Every time the goblin strikes, Nor just parries. Once the goblin emperor is taken off guard, Lin jumps in to use her abilities. The goblin emperor runs away from her attacks, but he is too fast. The goblin throws his tree towards Liney, but Nor steps in and parries the tree away, successfully saving Lin. The goblin grabs more trees and Nor just parries. Lin looks for a way to end this madness, but the goblin emperor heals his wounds in the blink of an eye, Lin notices the gem on the goblin's forehead. She tells Noor that they have a chance at defeating this hideous beast if they remove the gem on his forehead. The goblin throws 3 trees at Noor all at once. Noor realizes he cannot parry these many trees at the same time, which is a major L. All he did his entire life was parry, and now he can't parry. Lin steps in and saves the both of them using her wind blaster technique. The goblin heals its wounds within seconds. The mana stone on its forehead allows the goblin to heal fast. If this keeps up, the both of them will be goblin food soon. Noor realizes that Lin can't hit the goblin with her magic, so what chance does he have? All he is an OP janitor who isn't fit to fight monsters or train little girls. Noor has an idea. He asks Lin to use her spell on Noor. The spell is strong enough to take down castle walls. Noor has no chance of surviving such a strong blow. Noor places his sword on his back. This way the sword will take the impact, and he will be carried to the top of the goblin's head. Lin does as she's told, and Noor gets dragged to the goblin at full speed. His body cannot keep up with this sudden speed, but he uses low heal to keep up. He jumps in front of the goblin. Just as the goblin is about to use Noor as a human baseball, Noor smashes through the tree and strikes the goblin on his head. The mana stone falls out and Noor lands on the ground. The goblin screams in pain. Lin brings the mana stone to Noor. Noor asks her to end the goblin as painlessly as she can. The Goblin Emperor throws a fit in the background. Lin steps up and uses her spell to end the goblin in one blow. Noor apologizes to the goblin for ending him. Noor is glad this job is over and this will be the end of his goblin hunting days. He shouldn't overestimate his own strength. Rain lifts at the Mana Stone from the Goblin Emperor. His men explain the details of the Goblin Emperor, but Rain isn't surprised. All signs point to the Magic Kingdom and their tricks. The Mana Stone itself is the demon's heart of the holy theocracy of Mithra. Rain questions about Lin, who is safe. Both her and Noor were able to defeat a monster 10 times their strength. The Goblin Emperor was hiding using an advanced concealment technique that not even the Shadow Company could detect. Rain wonders how a monster this big would have even been able to come inside the Clay's kingdom. Rain's men show him a report of the other kingdom as he tells them to head back to work. Rain skims through the reports of the strange incidents happening around the room while reading the absurd letters out loud, when suddenly a revelation hits him, realizing it might all be the enemy's doing, and immediately orders his attendants to form a group of people who can use the ability, Search and Uncover, to go to the areas mentioned in the reports in order to investigate further, and to also call for the 6 sovereigns because it seems like an emergency situation. He beats himself up for not noticing the signs earlier. He did not think that the magical empire would go so far to get the resources in the dungeons, and having to care for the innocent lives at stake, their greed will consume them before they get to demolish the Clay Kingdom. Noor and Lin are now sitting together and enjoying their meal, thankful that they were still able to get the commission even though they totally messed up their chances by burning the enemy down. The old man was so nice he still gave them the compensation because it was their first commission. Noor wonders how long Lin is going to stick around with him. After all, her family must be worried as well. When Lin is done with her food, she informs him that she is going to go back home for the day, and if Noor ever needs her help ever again, she will be happy to accompany him on future commissions. Just then, Rain comes up to Lin, finally finding his dear little sister who loves running away from home. Rain turns to her and Noor, tasking them with an urgent mission to head to a city in the mountain district. The two really can't catch a break, but at least Rain is going to provide a carriage for them so they can go there without the fatigue of a hike, and they get paid well as well. The entire reason that Noor agreed is so he could ride the wagon for the first time and relax in the countryside. They even have one of the most powerful knights of the kingdom, Ines, as their bodyguard. He is truly living his best life as a newbie. He is looking out the window of the wagon while imagining his life ahead, and he sees Lin in his peripheral vision, looking all gloomy and sad. Lin explains that she feels a little bad about her brother dragging them into his own mess, even if it is an official commission. She feels sorry for dragging him into danger, but Ines, who is the one steering the vehicle, assures them both that she is going to save them if anything happens. Their knight in shining armor is her after all. Rain told her about how the country is going to fall under crisis and that she must flee with Noor and Lin to the countryside. However, being the hero she is, she does not tell the secrets that Rain told her about the kingdom, truly the knight in shining armor. They stop by a stream for rest as Lin tends to the horses that drink water. Noor and Ines have a small conversation with each other where Ines so gracefully tells him that he is her responsibility and that she is going to keep him safe in the fact of danger. Noor feels as if he is being underestimated and tells her that he can definitely protect himself, so she should focus on protecting Lin as much as she can. Ines tells him that she has learned a skill where she can make a shield that not even magic can penetrate, telling him to hide behind the shield to stay safe. Noor is amazed at how strong she is, according to what Lin told him. She is even stronger than the armadillo guy he sparred with. When Noor commends her skills, not having any of his own, she tells him her backstory like every side character does before getting absolutely cooked by an enemy. She explains that when she was taken into the orphanage, she discovered a strange power inside her, sort of like magic. When they were younger, this other girl tried to touch the mysterious magic in her hands but ended up getting hurt instead. Curiosity really does kill the cat. After that incident, the masters told her that she has a gift from the heavens and it is up to her to decide how she wants to use such a power. Either she could create a deadly weapon or a really strong shield that could protect from anything. As she started to hone her skill, she also became an antisocial brat. Relatable, isn't it? She started distancing herself from the fear of hurting someone again. But that was when she met Nor, the man whose name she already knew before, Dundarg. The man who taught her everything she knew about fighting always mentioned Nor's name whenever they were in a tough fight, wishing Nor was present to help him as if he is the most helpless knight ever. That made her feel unseen, but she ended up swallowing her pride and emotions. But it has not been going according to plan ever since Nor showed up in front of her. Nor is looking out the window of the wagon again, seeing vast plains of wheat, but notices a narrow path between them, as if someone created them on purpose. Enos notices that he has observed something wrong and asks him about it. They stop the wagon and Lin uses uncover magic to reveal a monster, the Black Death Dragon. Meanwhile, the kingdom seems to be getting cornered by monsters from all sides, as the king and Prince Rains get reports from different areas of the city. Every top-tier soldier is busy fending off the monsters even when they are overwhelmed in numbers and strength. Rain only wishes that his sister Lin is safe and sound. The monster is being controlled by a mysterious child. The monster ends up attacking the child once the uncover magic works and Nor swoops in to protect the little kid. It seems that the child is some sort of demon folk. They establish a mental bond with monsters and are able to control the monsters at will. Ines thinks it's foolish of Nor to swoop in to protect a kid that is bringing a monster to wreak havoc again in the capital. What sort of fool just jumps in to save their enemy? Talk about all brawn and no brain. Nor parries every attack the monster throws at him and Ines forbids Lin from jumping in and helping him. The dragon uses poison and Nor is struck by venom, truly not his day. The poison is so harmful and it weakens Nor, but he continues to use his parry ability so that he can defend the child, fighting even when he has no strength left at all. Maybe he should have listened to Ines when he jumped into the fight. She must be telling him that it is a dragon and not an ordinary frog monster. The monster uses its poison again and Ines protects Lin against the venomous gas as Nor ends up finally collapsing from the toll on his body. His voice fades, but he still insists that he can find some way to survive. The scene starts by the demon folk child, Rollo, explaining his past. It turns out that the demon folks have been feared by everyone because of their ability to control the monsters. Before they used to only use it to control the livestock, but some stupid guy had to go and use it to control the monsters. We all know that one person who does something they are not supposed to after all. This resulted in the demon folk being treated like livestock themselves, imprisoned and bullied, beaten up every day. The humans despised his kind, but he never once thought of taking revenge, clearly showing that most anime protagonists be acting out of spite. He basically thought it was his fate to get beaten up every day, but then the same human that imprisoned them and treated them as livestock started to exploit them for their power. Rollo in particular was manipulated. The man promised him benefits. If he helped them destroy the Clay Kingdom, he was made to control the Black Death Dragon, but in the end, he was betrayed and treated with cruelty once again. He was a little happy when the monster got out of his control. He thought that he could finally rest in peace and wished that in his next life he does not get beaten every day and gets to enjoy tasty food. He truly accepted his fate as the monster approached him, but he ended up getting saved by Nor as if life wanted all of its lemons back. When the Black Death Dragon used his poisonous gas, Nor used his healing effect to save the child, and instead he himself, truly a people's hero moves, and instead he got a great dose of the poison himself. Even then he still managed to fight the dragon. But it did not last for long. Nor ended up letting the poison get the best of him, proving that he isn't invincible. Even then, his last thought as he laid down on the ground, on the verge of passing out, he thought that he will somehow manage to stay alive, proving that too much optimism clouds the realism mindset. Back in his subconscious, Nor drifts into memories of his childhood. After his mother passed away, he would wander the forest looking for anything edible to bring home. Half the time it was just strange herbs, and one of those experiments nearly killed him. He poisoned himself so badly he could barely move for 2 days, relying on low heal just to stay alive. Most kids get grounded for eating snacks before dinner, but Nor was out here building resistance to toxins like it was a side hobby. Over time, he toughened up. Poisonous plants couldn't touch him, and even snake bites became more like appetizers. Eventually, he was chomping down on snakes for fun, turning venom into seasoning. All that accidental training paid off. By the time the Black Death Dragon hurled poison in his face, Nor's body just shrugged it off like it was nothing more than bad breath. Nor gets back up from what looks more like a power nap than a battle break, ready to face the monster again. He calmly parries each strike, shutting down the creature's attacks like it's just swatting flies. The monster gathers all its poison for one desperate final move, stuffing it into its throat for a massive blast meant to wipe out the humans in front of it. But Nor isn't having it. He parries in just the right way to force the beast's mouth shut, and the built-up poison backfires, blowing it apart from the inside. Everyone around him stares in shock, amazed at his victory. Meanwhile, Nor is fixated on something entirely different: how delicious that poisonous frog might taste. Only Noor could survive a lethal monster and immediately think of dinner plans, as if fine dining on toxic leftovers is the natural next step after saving the day. He turns back to the child behind him, walking towards him while asking how he is doing. Noor wonders why the child is traveling alone, and Rollo confesses that he was the one that was bringing the poisonous toad with his to the city because of a promise he made. Our stupid protagonist is so simple-minded, he does connect the dots, but he is entirely wrong. He thinks that the child must be bringing a very delicious ingredient back into the city. Transporting such a massive amount of meat into the city, the only way to keep it fresh is by bringing it alive. The kid must have used the concealment magic in order to protect it from the other meat thieves. He thinks the kid must have been raising the piece of meat with so much care as well. He basically destroyed a valuable merchandise for the kid and ruined his livelihood and feels super stupid for the wrong reasons. He should feel super stupid for being so stupid after all. He totally misunderstood the situation. Noor asks him how he was bringing such a big monster by himself, and Rollo finally confesses that he can control monsters. Noor is stunned that such a tiny kid could command something so massive, completely missing the detail that the child had been using the toad to terrorize the city. Rollo reveals he's a demon folk, explaining that humans fear his kind because they can control monsters. Noor, instead of being cautious like a normal adult, reacts more like a curious cat discovering a new toy, utterly fascinated by the ability. He decides it's actually pretty useful and praises it without hesitation. For Rollo, this is groundbreaking. After a lifetime of rejection, the first adult to give him approval just happens to be the protagonist himself. Instant validation unlocked, and now the kid is basically locked in, like Noor's biggest fan. Noor tells him that he would take his ability if he could, because the child does not seem to appreciate it enough, and the kid starts weeping silently after experiencing the first validating moment of his life. Happy that someone finally understands him and does not hate him right after hearing he is a demon folk, Lynn and Ines run towards the two and can't believe their eyes when they see that Noor is completely fine after being exposed to such a high degree of poison. This level could only be achieved by honing the body and mind to a religious degree. Even Sane took 40 years to achieve that level. Lynn wonders how Noor was able to get so far so soon. Noor asks Lynn to check out the child, and both Ines and Lynn are wary of the kid at first, asking what Noor is thinking of doing to the demon folk kid. Noor explains that he wants the kid to travel with them, and when the other two try to tell him about how dangerous or evil the kid could be, Noor still does not catch on about it, naive as ever. When Noor asks the kid who ordered him to deliver the goods, the kid shakes his head, saying that no one tells him anything and just orders him around. Ines observes the kid, noticing that the kid really does seem like a slave exploited for his skills. Lynn feels like a bad person for judging Rollo based on his race. He was just a trembling kid with nowhere to go, but her immaturity got the best of her. She turns to Ines, telling her that Rollo will have to come along with him. A mysterious figure shows up, someone who seems to be holding a grudge against the little kid, and is a threat to the three of them along with Rollo because the guy seems ready to fight. The mysterious man who has been sent by the person that ordered Rollo to control the monster shows up and demands the guys to give Rollo to him. Noor wonders if he is the person who hired him to transport meat to the city, and the guy shakes his head, saying that the other guy told him to bring Rollo back, and if even offering a huge sum for him, at least his carcass. This makes Noor's guard go up even though he was happy just a second ago that someone wants to take Rollo back. Poor Rollo really can't seem to catch a break. The man attacks them suddenly, going behind to catch Rollo, but Noor immediately parries his attacks, pushes the two girls and Rollo away from the man, and goes to have a little fight with him. The man tells him that he could just take Rollo's life and then bring it back, or the master could do it. Honestly, the latter would be much worse, and Noor defends Rollo, saying that there is no way that he is going to let something so horrible happen to the kid, fighting with all his strength and parrying any attack that comes his way. The last attack has so much impact it ends up pushing Rollo backwards. Noor also gets pushed backwards, but he does not lose his footing, brushing it off but still finding the strength of the man unbelievable. The mysterious man attacks Noor again, not giving him a chance to catch his breath as he continuously attacks him, pushing him further back. Ines protects Lynn using her shield, telling her to stay behind her at all cost, because knowing Lynn, she would probably go head first into the battlefield just to save Noor. Ines recognizes the mysterious man as Deadman Zadu, the former S-rank adventurer, maybe because of such an emo name bro, let go of his adventurer career and became a serial killer instead. What an upgrade for real. Apparently even in young age he mastered the art of Dwarven Academy and only learned more skills as he grew up, truly a prodigy that fell off because he never used his skills for the right reasons and is only after earning money. He even wiped out an entire country just for the big banks. Back to the fight with Noor and Zadu the Deadman, because he is definitely going to be a corpse after Noor is done with him. Zadu takes a step back while fighting him, surprised that Noor keeps on breaking his expensive and strong weapons because no one should be strong enough to do something like that. Noor, playing the dumb character he is, asks Zadu if he wants to be reimbursed. Zadu pokes fun at him, calling him a weird guy with a weird weapon. He decides to use his ultimate skill, the Silver Cross, which turns his main weapon into thousands of smaller projectiles, with which he can take out even an entire country. It will be very hard for him to counter so many weapons at the same time. Noor tries to counter the countless weapons that fall from above, but knowing that Rollo is in danger, he stops countering and instead protects Rollo physically, taking a hit himself. He can only counter the projectiles instead of actually fighting Zadu. Ines watches from the sidelines, taking a step forward to help Noor out, but holds herself back in order to keep Lin out of danger. She can't risk her safety just to save Noor, but then remembers that he must accompany Lin and keep Lady Lin out of harm's way. She turns to Lin to ask for her permission to help him out. And just when Noor is getting out of breath while countering the projectiles, and when he braces himself to take the attacks to his body, Ines' shield protects him and Rollo like the girl boss she is. She also uses her shields to attack the dead man. Her shields are sharper than most weapons as well. Ines asks Noor to fight the dead man while she focuses on protecting them. Noor nods and notices the poisonous toad's fangs and nails on the ground and asks Ines to remove the shield that is in front of him only. Ines is skeptical at first, but trusts Noor enough to comply. Noor throws the fangs and nails in his hand at the projectiles, taking quite a few out, and is impressed that it actually ended up working. Ines notices something behind her, turning immediately to come face to face with Deadman's weapon. He has aiming at her, and just as it is about to hit her, Noor parries the attack. Zadu wonders how Noor was able to break another one of his weapons made of adamantite, a substance that can't be broken. Zadu admits his defeat, saying that it is a pity he can't get hold of the demonfolk child, but it really can't be helped because he can't do anything with Noor in the way. He calls Noor annoying. The man just parries any attack that comes him way. Zadu takes his leave, calling him a weirdo but thinking that fighting him is not worth it. Before he leaves, he informs them of a great show that is going to be happening in the capital. The three of them discuss their next plan, wondering what Deadman Zadu meant by the show, and Rollo, after finding out that they are all from the capital, starts shivering in fear. When they ask him what happened, he tells them that the capital is in great danger because he heard the people that kept him as their slave talk about some sort of big monster, a dragon. Even the Black Death Dragon pales in comparison to the show the monster is going to put on. Lin tells them that they need to go back to the capital, but Ines doesn't agree. After all, Rain told her to take Lin to Mithra, but after some convincing from Lin, Ines agrees to the plan, remembering that saving the prince and the king is also important. Before they leave, Noor looks at the frog with a painful smile on his face, and Lin notices that he must be feeling solemnly for the demonfolk children. Instead, Noor was actually feeling sad for not being able to have a taste of the frog. Bro only thinks of food wherever he goes. In the capital, Rain takes a walk to assess the situation as one of the soldiers informs him that all of the people have been evacuated. Rain wonders from where the enemy will attack them next. He looks to the north and the south, even above him, and something catches his eye. There is a bubble in the sky right above him. Wondering what it is, he uses his uncover spell to remove the invisibility magic, and a huge dragon is revealed, the Dragon of Calamity. It could impact the entire kingdom if it goes out of control. A flash plays back to back. When Noor was a little kid, he was reading a book about dragon slayers as his father told him stories about great dragon slayers of his time who defeated legendary dragons and became huge heroes. He also shows his fascination as a kid of wanting to be a dragon slayer, his father fully supporting his kid with shining stars in his eyes. Noor comes back into reality, bringing everyone's focus with him to something he spots above the city. When Lin turns to look, she is surprised to find a big black dragon looming over the city, totally not something you want to be seeing when you go back home. The people of the city also stare above in horror, the shadow of the dragon big enough to make them realize the threat it carries. The great Dragon of Calamity has finally awakened from its slumber after so many years after all. Rain asks everyone to evacuate the city, ordering his soldiers not to leave anyone behind. The king and the prince decide to remain in the city to fend the dragon off in any way they can, while Lin wishes for her brother and his father to run away from the threat. Noor decides that it is in everyone's best interest if he runs to the dragon and takes Lin's father and her brother to safety. When Lin wonders how he is going to run, he tells her they can use Wind Blast. Even if it is going to cause a huge impact, it is the only thing they can do now instead of giving up, which was what Lin was going to do initially. Lin is still adamant about saving her father, who is currently having a meeting with his enemy, who tells him that he is not even suitable to be a king. Her father walks outside of the room, imagining his little girl running in front of him and beckoning him to follow her, thinking a crown might suit him after all because a weapon suits his hands more, spoken like a true gigachad. He braces himself to attack the Dragon of Calamity and to defend his people. Lin and Ines get ready to send Noor flying off with Lin's Wind Blast skill, literally. The skill is enhanced 6 folds than last time, and when Noor flies off, you can't even see him. The dragon comes face to face with the king now. readying a massive beam attack from its mouth aimed directly at the king. The king gets ready to use all of his life force in one attack before the dragon is able to take him out as well, completely at peace with sacrificing himself for the people. Right when the dragon is about to fire its beam, Nor swoops in like the hero he is and parries the attack of the dragon with ease, saving the king from doom. The dragon is angrier than before, wondering why a small human like Nor was able to make his scales get covered in dust, and says something about the strong ruling the weak and whatnot. It's not like our protagonist is listening closely to the dragon's word either, nor parries the dragon's attack once again, thinking back to when Lin actually sent him flying with the wind blast. He really thought he was gone. He actually had no choice but to parry the dragon's attack because he was actually going to crash into the dragon. He engages in direct combat with the dragon. Despite the dragon's reputation and power, Nor can't bring himself to feel afraid of the monster in front of him, and parries its attacks with surprising ease for such a legendary creature. Meanwhile, Lin and Ines reach the city on the horses with Rollo accompanying them, going straight to defend the king and bring him to safety while the dragon is busy fighting Nor. They get stopped in their journey as a huge rock comes flying at them, the work of 3 huge goblin emperors. Ines protects the rest with her shield, and Lin feels her skills lacking but still assures Ines not to worry because they are just a bunch of ugly goblins. The goblins rush towards them to attack, and Lin's petty attacks are not useful at all in stopping them. The only thing that stops them is Ines' shield, and Rollo decides to use his ability to mind control the ogres to stop moving. Lin and Ines take down the goblin emperors. Lin wonders that Ines really does live up to her title as the Divine Sword, taking down anything that comes in her way. She is also impressed by the immense power of Rollo, being able to control huge goblins like that, even though he is just a kid. Her self-loathing returns, feeling useless for not being able to do another worthwhile, but immediately stops as she thinks that Nor would never think that way about himself. Nor parries every attack the dragon throws at him in anger, wondering why he has so many wounds inflicted on his body when his claws are supposed to be indestructible. He is also surprised, wondering what kind of substance his weapon is made out of because it never breaks or chips open. The dragon decides to use more power, mustering up every ounce of strength and mana behind his next beam attack, sure to make no mistakes at all as he unloads it directly at Nor. Somehow he is able to parry that attack as well, even though it has such a huge impact and pressure. Even the king who is standing close feels the force. The monster roars loudly afterwards in anger, but also because he thinks of Nor as his enemy. But Nor does not seem to think of him as his enemy. Dragons are prideful monsters, but now it feels as if the dragon feels himself to be the weak one all alone. He goes to attack Nor with his bare fangs but ends up getting countered once again by him. The dragon finally settles down and takes a stance that makes it clear it has submitted to Nor. He looks around, puzzled, at the scattered fangs, claws, and bones lying on the ground like leftovers from a very expensive barbecue. His father's old words come back to him, reminding him why dragon slayers were so respected. All those parts meant wealth and glory for the people. Nor tightens his grip on his weapon, feeling a small rush of pride for actually doing something good for the city. But when the time comes to finish the dragon, he pulls back. Instead of chasing the glory, he spares it, sighing to himself that he might never be remembered as a great hero, but at least the city isn't a pile of ashes thanks to him. After the battle, Lin and company run towards the big idiot, all relieved that the danger is finally over, and Nor thinks that his ability might actually be more powerful than he had ever assumed it to be. Nor smiles like the idiot he is when the group runs up to him. Everyone is panicking over him, but somehow, he is still fine. He stares at Rollo and calls him a lifesaver, acting like he just gave him CPR or something. Rollo looks confused, but Nor insists it was him who calmed the dragon down and saved his life. Rollo immediately denies it, because of course Nor's brain is running on dial-up again. He now looks confused, wondering why this dragon suddenly went chill. He remembers what Rollo said about his power-scaring people and decides Rollo must be hiding it, probably scared of being hated for taming a violent dragon. Nor puts that thought aside and then hits him with the most NPC request ever: send the dragon home. The group's eyes pop wide and Ines warns him this dragon is dangerous. Nor admits, yeah, killing it would make more sense, but he wants to avoid that because he is selfish like that. Lin looks thrown off, but Nor explains himself again like some bargain bin philosopher, and she finally agrees. Rollo steps forward and holds his palm out to the dragon, talking to it like he is ordering takeout. The dragon agrees and says it will do as the master commands. Nor and the others are stunned at how obedient this massive beast suddenly is. Then the dragon roars and flies off like everything is solved. But of course, plot armor ends quick. A purple beam shoots across the sky and nails the dragon. The squad stares in disbelief as the dragon spirals down. Meanwhile, some edgy man is watching from a distance. King Doritus III is grinning because apparently everything is going exactly as he planned. The 1,000-year-old dragon that everyone hyped up is just a disposable pawn for his empire. He expected the capital to already be barbecue, but whatever, the guy's got backup plans. He rallies his forces, summoning soldiers, knights, ranged units, and long-range artillery like it is a real-life RTS game. Flashback time. King Doritas lounging in his throne while a man tells him the Dragon of Calamity has already awakened and will wreck the city. After that, they will unleash soldiers, elites with magic weapons, heavy defense called the Aegis, and 4 busted mana beam cannons called the Brianac. The king smirks like a villain, but then Randius interrupts saying this whole op is not in their best interests. Daridae shuts him up by kicking him across the room like yesterday's trash. He brags that nothing can compete with the Empire's Magitech. Back in the present, Daridae marches his army forward with big main character energy. He declares that the Kingdom of Clays will go down in history as a greedy, clueless mess that ignored the Dungeon of the Lost and basically self-destructed. He says the Magic Empire will swoop in, liberate the people, and take all the glory. The guy just wants to rewrite history with himself as the hero, even though we all know he is just another wannabe Thanos. Rollo spots the army in the distance and points at them. The soldiers from the Empire notice the group too, and one points back. They realize the princess is there, and the woman beside her is Ines, the Divine Shield, one of the living legends. Probably the only reason the capital has not been wiped out yet. The king decides it is time to end the Age of Legends and start the Age of Intellect, so he orders the Brianac to be fired. He brags that even the Divine Shield cannot block that weapon. The artillery charges up while the king smirks like some cartoon villain. The group sees the beam charging, and Lynn drags Rollo to safety. The blast heads straight for Inez, who just stands frozen. Nor, being the reckless idiot he is, jumps in front with his sword and parries the blast away. King Daridae does not understand what just happened, so he blames his soldiers and screams for another shot. The group is left wondering what that light was. Lynn explains, it is the Imperial army, probably in the tens of thousands, all under the authority of King Daridae III. They do not know much else, but one thing is obvious. This king is here to take over the kingdom, and his forces outnumber the defenders badly. Ines tells Lynn that this is as far as they go. Lynn agrees and says she will go back and find her brother. She asks what Nor will do. The only option is to run. But before they even finish their talk, another barrage approaches. Nor gets ready to parry, but Ines casts Divine Shield and covers the group. The king gets annoyed and pulls back to safety. As Ines holds the line, Nor realizes staying here is calling their own doom, so he decides he will hold off the army while the rest escape. Nor thinks back to how he used to poke beehives as a dumb kid and then sprint for his life. He is sure he can escape these soldiers the same way. Lynn offers to help Nor however she can. She stands behind him with her palms forward. Nor wonders what she is doing, but she just tells him to brace himself. Before he even processes it, Rollo points out another beam charging in the distance. There is no time to waste. Lynn casts Wind Blast and literally yeets Nor into the sky like a human missile. He nearly passes out mid-flight but comes back to his senses. Magic attacks come at him, but somehow he manages to parry them mid-air. More blasts follow, but he keeps deflecting them. Lynn's spell gave him insane momentum, and he cannot stop even when he crashes back to the ground. He keeps running forward while blocking attacks. The soldiers prepare to meet him, but he just smacks their weapons and shields away into the air like he is juggling. He knows he has to buy time for Lynn and the others to escape, so he keeps sprinting and deflecting non-stop. The king watches in shock, trying to figure out what this lunatic is doing. Nor jumps with such force that the wind makes the king's cheeks flap like a cartoon. But instead of landing on him, Nor lands just behind him, then vanishes toward another target. The soldiers look up in confusion as their weapons rain down on them like sharp confetti. Even the Aegis, one of the king's prideful defenses, gets yeeted into the sky. The king can only stand there uselessly, watching his army fall apart. Suddenly, Nor charges again and sends soldiers flying, even knocking the king back. The weapons keep raining down like it is some cursed fireworks show. Nor swoops past the king, panting hard but still moving like a madman. King Daridae realizes this is the same guy from earlier and wonders how he closed the gap so fast. Nor turns his cold-eyed stare toward him, approaching like some unhinged maniac. The king panics and pulls out his weapon, but Nor ignores him and goes for the Brianacs instead, flinging them into the sky too. He comes back toward the king, who notices Nor is using King Clay's black blade, a weapon so heavy that even the king himself needed 2 hands to swing it. Nor, meanwhile, swings it like it is a toy, smirking like a psycho. The king looks around at the wreckage, his soldiers wiped out, his defenses broken, and Nor standing there like the ugliest discount hero anyone has ever seen. Nor grins even wider, clearly humiliating him. The king straight up soils himself and scrambles to his horse, riding away screaming like a coward. Nor's sheer aura alone was enough to scare him half to his doom. The scene shifts to Nor's point of view as he crashes through the battlefield. He spots some old guy in shiny golden armor. Even the horse is rocking the bling like it is cosplaying as a disco ball. Nor has no clue what this grandpa is doing here, and honestly, he does not care. He keeps swatting soldiers left and right like mosquitoes, still trying to figure out who this armored fossil could be. Weapons fly at him non-stop, but he just keeps deflecting them all, acting like a budget Gojo with a discount infinity. The Aegis goes down too, another so-called defense shredded. From King Daridae' perspective, Nor looks like an unstoppable menace, but Nor himself does not even see the Golden Geezer as a threat. Instead, he focuses on the bigger toys, the artillery and Brianacs, and smashes them like it is a demolition derby. Deep down, he almost feels bad for the king and wants to tell him he means no harm, but then he remembers how fun it is to watch this guy shake in his boots. Out of nowhere, Noor collapses to his knees. Reality hits, his stamina is cooked. Even his half-baked healing is not cutting it anymore. He coughs up red life fluid, while soldiers start circling like vultures. His vision blurs, but instead of thinking about how stupid he has been, his brain still worries about Ines, Lynn, and Rollo. Bro is literally dying and still simping for the squad. Just as things look over, a voice calls out, "Shooting star," and suddenly purple arrows rain from the heavens like a JoJo stand attack. Another voice follows with Dagrave, tossing soldiers around like ragdolls. Noor looks up and sees Mian and Gilbert pulling up the cavalry. Behind him, a blue-haired guy strolls in, looking way cooler than Noor ever did, and tells him to sit his ugly self down because he has done enough. He even adds that it would be embarrassing for the 6th Army Corps if they could not handle the leftovers. Noor at that point is basically benched like a useless support character. The squad's leader, Sig, shows up and does not even acknowledge Noor, which honestly feels right. Noor has been playing wannabe protagonist all this time and now gets treated like background NPC. Noor secretly drools at how cool Sig's sword skills are, even if he won't admit it. On the side, the team's old magician Oaken and the cleric Sign go full weirdo mode with their spells. These two summon reinforcements and cast some stone prison nonsense, locking soldiers into the ground like they just got hit by a Pokemon move. Whole chunks of the army get trapped for interrogation later. Noor, meanwhile, is looking around with dizzy eyes and suddenly recognizes all his old teachers, getting way too emotional about it. Mian, the archer girl, spots him, and Crew the thief does too. Noor lights up like a kid seeing his favorite anime cameo, acting starstruck even though he is half unalived on the battlefield. Lynn heals Noor up and the dude suddenly feels brand new, like someone hit reset on his HP bar. Problem is, now he is hungrier than a shonen protagonist after a training arc. While Noor is busy thinking with his stomach, the Sovereign Six actually use their brains and realize King Dorita slipped away. They need a way to catch him before he locks himself up in his fortress. For once, Noor grows half a brain cell and suggests they use the Dragon of Calamity if it is even alive. Sane gets to work healing the beast while Oaken grumbles about how reckless this plan is. Noor immediately roasts him, saying the old fossil looks exactly the same as he did years ago, which is basically a polite way of saying he is shocked this grandpa has not kicked the bucket yet. Rollo, meanwhile, chats it up with the dragon like it is just another Tuesday, and the dragon makes it clear he is pissed and wants revenge on the Magic Empire. Everyone climbs onto the dragon's back, but Noor is clearly about to soil himself. Man is more terrified of heights than Asta is of quiet libraries. He's gripping onto the dragon like a kid clutching his mom's leg on the first day of school. Karoo tags along too, agreeing to cloak the dragon so they are not spotted mid-flight. Just then, King Clays and Rain roll up. Ines starts apologizing like crazy for disobeying his orders, basically groveling. Rain just shrugs and says it is fine because his orders were trash anyway. Even royalty admits when their ideas are garbage, which is more than Noor has ever managed. Noor, trying to act brave, tells the king they will be fine and hops back on the dragon, looking like he is about to hurl the whole way up. On the ground, Sig and Master Dundard start chatting about Noor like proud uncles who never showed up to family dinners. They wonder if they should have said something to him, but Sig admits Noor basically raised himself better than they ever could. Translation: while they were busy being stuck-up clowns, Noor somehow trained into a discount overpowered protagonist. Honestly, it is the first nice thing anyone has said about him in forever. Meanwhile, up in the air, the group wonders if the king already reached his empire's tower defenses. When they spot him nearing, they decide to let Ines nuke the entire area, because Subtlety has clearly left the chat. She happily unleashes destruction like she has been waiting her whole life for this moment. As Ines is blasting everything in sight, Lynn notices Noor sitting in dead silence. She thinks he is being all stoic and serious, like some wise anime MC plotting his next move. What she does not know is that this clown has actually passed out cold from sheer terror of flying. The hero is not meditating or strategizing, he is just KO'd because of vertigo. Honestly, imagine putting all your faith in a guy who blacks out mid-flight. King Doritos finally drags his sorry butt back to the Empire, stomping into his throne room like a kid who just lost at Mario Kart. He immediately starts screaming at his subordinates, calling them incompetent clowns for messing everything up. But mid-rant, he looks out and sees the Dragon of Calamity heading straight toward his throne room. Man literally soils himself on the spot. The P from earlier just got a roommate. He panics, realizing they somehow resurrected the dragon, and his tiny brain immediately jumps to Sane, the healer built like a DLC character with god-tier powers. Then he thinks maybe it is that annoying demon folk controlling it. He demands to know where the beast tamer is, the one who helped tame the dragon originally, and gets told the guy dipped ages ago. Basically, their one useful NPC already rage quit. The king, being the salty loser he is, just starts beating on his own men out of frustration. He turns to the same poor subordinate he literally kicked in the face earlier and demands he come up with a plan. Like, bro, You cannot beat the man like a piñata and then ask him to save you. He then orders his soldiers to activate some new superweapon called Kuranos. They nervously explain it is still in testing, cannot be aimed properly, and is too unstable. But of course, King Doritos is too busy role-playing as a budget Dio Brando to care. He punts the guy across the room and says if they cannot aim it, just slap some mana tracing on it. His brilliant logic, if it's broken, just make it worse. The weapon fires, draining the entire town's mana supply, and the king declares it his so-called divine judgment. Reality check. Noor wakes up from his fear nap and locks in. He parries the beam like it is just another Tuesday. The king almost has a heart attack right there. And to make it even better, since the cannon was set to target mana, it backfires by nuking all the Empire's own mana furnaces. Congrats, King Doritos. You just wiped your own energy grid. His subordinates see the disaster unfold and immediately abandon ship, sprinting out of the throne room like it is a Black Friday sale. They leave the king all alone with the mess he created. Meanwhile, Noor is still flying through the air after that parry, realizing he has absolutely nothing soft to land on. And because he is an idiot magnet for chaos, he slams through wall after wall like a human wrecking ball, sword first. He crashes right through the palace walls and busts into the throne room like the Kool-Aid man with a weapon. Noor's version of stealth is basically let me destroy all architecture on the way in. At this point, even the editors probably needed a coffee break. Just as King Doritos was getting surrounded by a bunch of his own soldiers who were plotting to unalive him and sell him out to Clay's kingdom, things were looking real bad. Remember, this is the same king who kept bullying their leader and then had the audacity to send him off to fix the mess he himself made. Out of nowhere, Noor crashes in through the roof like some budget superhero. He starts defending the king because, in his eyes, it is just not fair for a whole squad of soldiers to jump a weak old man. The soldiers assume Noor must be a paid bodyguard, so they all rush him. But every single attack just gets parried back. In fact, Noor tries to keep Doritos out of harm's way, but in classic Noor fashion, he ends up body slamming the king into the floor and walls. Honestly, the king was probably taking more damage from Noor's rescue attempts than from the soldiers. Noor then flips on his roast mode and tells them the king is already ancient, so they do not even need to end him. If they just wait, he will go of old age. Noor basically called him a walking expiration date. Noor's dumb brain still has no clue how to handle the situation, but Rain, Sane, Lin, and the thief dude show up to back him. They agree the king should get special treatment. Sane clarifies that by special treatment, he means dragging the king to the edge of demise, and then healing him just so he can feel every ounce of pain all over again. Rain piles on by reminding the king exactly how many people died in the Clay Kingdom siege. He says forgiveness will come, but only after the king pays in pain. The man literally pees himself again. Meanwhile, Noor starts feeling guilty about destroying all those mana furnaces with his parry, but Lin explains that those furnaces are basically overstuffed with mana, so people cannot even enter them safely. Noor instantly drops the guilt trip. Dude was like, oh cool, my bad, never mind then. Rain then announces the war is finally over, which completely fries Noor's brain. He cannot understand why everyone did not just talk it out, instead of getting thousands hurt. Rain explains that the throne will now go to the king's grandson, who is only 10. Until he grows up, a council will run things. At that point, the soldier who planned to unalive Doritos earlier, Randius, introduces himself to Noor. He apologizes for attacking him and swears he will do anything to make amends. They end up on good terms, and it is revealed that Randius will actually serve on that ruling council. After all that drama, the Clay gang hops back on the dragon to head home. Poor Noor is begging them to fly closer to the ground because he absolutely hates flying. Imagine saving kingdoms but crying on flights like a toddler. When they arrive home, Rain and Noor go straight to meet their king. The king apologizes like crazy, especially for making his own son Rain handle all the negotiations. Then he showers Noor with gratitude for saving them in battle. But Noor, being Noor, refuses any reward, acting like the most humble guy alive. The king insists that it would look bad if Noor walked away empty-handed, so Noor makes one simple request. All he wants is for Rollo to be adopted into the kingdom, given a good home, a good family, and taken care of properly. The king realizes this move will probably wreck their relationship with the holy theocracy of Mithra, but he does not care too much, since Mithra most likely sided with the Magic Empire anyway. That night, Rollo wakes up in his new home. He goes down for dinner, sees the table full of food, and just freezes. When Ines tells him he can dig in, he breaks down crying. One of his biggest wishes was simply to eat good food, and now he has it. He grabs everything on the table, stuffing his face while bawling his eyes out. Bro was literally eating and crying at the same time like it was a food ASMR therapy session. The next morning, Noor finally heads back to the guild to help clean up all the leftover mess. While picking through the debris, he finds the guild sign. Holding it, he remembers the first time he ever saw it all the way back 15 years ago. That moment changed his life, because right after a guild member told him about the schools, young Noor went off to join the sword school. From day one, it was obvious he was cracked at it. Even though he never developed any new skills, his raw talent made him stand out. He was so impressive that the best swordsman in the entire kingdom, Sig, who ran the school, straight up said Noor could surpass him someday. One day, Sig shows off one of his fastest techniques, tossing leaves into the air and slicing every single one in a blur. Noor, wide-eyed and amazed, explains exactly how Sig moved. That means Noor could see and track him even while he was moving at super speed. Sig was floored, thinking Noor might actually be more talented than he first believed. But 3 months later, things got weird. Noor still hadn't developed any skill other than parry. Even though Sig saw crazy potential in him, he had no choice but to let Noor go. No new skills meant no future at the sword school, though Sig was sure Noor's talent would shine somewhere else. Still chasing greatness, Noor moved on to the warrior guild. Training there actually toughened him up. 2 months in, during a brutal test where giant boulders are dropped on trainees, an accident happens. A massive rock, way bigger than normal, falls straight toward Noor. Dundarg, the guild leader, rushes in to protect him but stops in his tracks. Noor hasn't even flinched. Bro just tanked the thing like it was nothing. Literal nuts of steel. A month later though, Dundarg admits the same problem. Noor hadn't learned anything new besides slight physical improvements. With regret, he sends Noor off too, convinced this boy's talent belongs elsewhere. Noor doesn't quit. He joins the archer school next, run by Mian, a girl so bored she's basically laziness reincarnated. To mess with him, she gives Noor a near impossible challenge. Throw a rock 70 million meters to hit a stick hanging from a tree. Noor casually nails it, over and over. Her jaw drops so hard it probably needed a crane to move it back in place. But because Noor is way too strong, she doesn't dare give him a bow at first. Eventually, she caves in. The result was that Noor instantly snaps the bow in half. She gives him another one. Snap. Another one. Snap. She even hands him her special bow, and of course, Noor breaks it too. Bow manufacturers would hate this guy. After a couple months, he is still only throwing rocks, blasting a shield that now has a gaping hole in the middle. Noor explains he got this good by unaliving rainbow birds. That floors Mian again because those birds are insanely fast and even pro archers struggle with them. But after another month of training, the pattern repeats. Noor still hasn't learned a single new skill. With no options left, Mian tells him to leave as well, though she, like the others, is sure Noor's real talent lies somewhere else. Since Noor isn't about that quitting life, he drags his clueless self over to the Thief Guild next. The guild master Karu takes one look at him and can already tell the dude's got talent buried somewhere under all that stupidity. Noor even manages to clear a dungeon filled with ridiculous traps, which should have been impossible for a rookie. But instead of moving all sneaky like a thief is supposed to, this idiot just barrels through like a battering ram, nearly hurting everyone around him in the process. Sure, it gets the job done, but stealth 0 out of 10. Karu is impressed and disappointed at the same time, and in the end, Noor still gets expelled because clearly, this man was born allergic to subtlety. After that, our boy tries his hand at being a mage, and let me tell you, it's tragic. The best Noor can do is conjure up a tiny little flame, like a candle that's about to go out. Oaken tells him straight up that he's useless, but then almost faints when he sees Noor casually dual-wielding those baby flames. That's apparently a technique so advanced it took Oaken literal years to master. But the thing is, Noor can't evolve past his matchstick powers, so once again, he gets booted out. Bro went from prodigy moment to back to the curb in record time. With all options drying up, Noor figures maybe he'll vibe with the cleric life. Except the cleric master does not even let him in. Straight rejection at the front door. But Noor, being the stubborn donkey that he is, decides to freeze outside the school in the snow like a discount anime protagonist until they let him in. Days pass. He collapses from hunger and cold, and Sign finally takes pity on him and accepts him as a student. For a brief moment, it looks like Noor might actually have a shot at something. But reality smacks him again when Sign realizes that the only thing Noor can do is cast a pathetic low heal spell. And so, just like all the other times, he gets kicked out, his dreams shattered into dust. Meanwhile, the Sovereign Six are having a meeting, and this is where they collectively realize they're clowns. Instead of tossing Noor from guild to guild like some hot potato, they should have actually teamed up and trained him together. They all agree that Noor is disgustingly talented, even if it's super weird that he hasn't developed a flashy skill yet. They admit it would be a massive waste to let all that raw ability go unnoticed, and they swear they've got to find him and bring him back to the capital for real training. Snapping out of his little flashback arc, Noor is back at the completely wrecked guild, sweeping up rubble alongside the guildmaster. The old dude is just relieved. Noor is alive and still thinks he's weak. So what does he do? hands Noor a low-rank cleanup quest like it's charity work. And of course, Noor happily accepts because apparently, doing bottom-tiered run jobs is his true calling. Dude still doesn't think of himself as strong even after saving half the kingdom. Over at the royal side of things, King Clays has a chat with his son Rain. He warns him that chaos is only going to get worse now that the holy theocracy of Mithra has revealed its true shady side. But the king is low-key proud too, since his kingdom is stacked with good-hearted people who actually want to fight for what's right. Meanwhile, Noor is still vibing with his broom like it's peak character development. After grinding through the entire night, Noor stumbles into Lynn in the morning. She's handing out fresh breadsticks like an NPC vendor in a cozy RPG. Noor, starving after hauling rocks all night, takes one and scarfs it down like it's the best gourmet meal of his life. Lynn smiles and runs off to pass out more, while Noor just goes back to lugging rubble, thinking about how epic his new sword is and how many more gutters he's going to clean with it. Then a big moment hits. Noor notices a bell tower collapsing on some random unlucky guy. Without even thinking, he launches himself forward and parries the entire structure away like it's nothing, saving the man in an instant. Just like that, the same farmer who looked like a complete joke not long ago officially becomes the parrying powerhouse. The underdog glow up no one saw coming, bringing the end of the Noor's adventure while parrying everything.